So if it's just being an entrepreneur and making money, then it's just transactional education. It's not transformational education.
Hello Malaysia, hello world. Apa khabar? Welcome back to another exciting program of ECM Talk. Topic for today, the University of the Pandemic. Are we? I'm Raja Shahrul, your host. It is a newly coined term to refer to the unfortunate or fortunate things that has happened to higher education institutions since the COVID-19 pandemic started. Universities have been overwhelmed with drastic moves in response to the ravaging pandemic since 2020. We are hereby destined to live with the so-called new normal and move on with our lives, our plight, and our aspirations of the future, be it reactively or proactively. I have here with me today a strong supporter of the ECM Talk program, Professor Azrin Ariffin, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of SEGi University and also the Dean of the Faculty of Optometry.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam. Welcome back, Professor Azrin Ariffin.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's always been a pleasure to have you with us.
Well, it's a pleasure for me to do it anytime.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Can I just take my mask off and move a bit further away?
Yes, please do. Please
Thank
do.
you.
Yes. Well, then
Oh,
I can
it
do
feels
the
much
same.
better now.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll do the same. Yes.
All right. So what are we talking about today then?
Right, now, related to the topic that I have mentioned earlier, Prof, perhaps I'll start with this. What are your concerns about this seemingly prolonged shift in paradigm with regards to the delivery of higher education?
Well, the pandemic is a very worrying time for me. I mean, you can never be more prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you thought that you could go back into the water, as it were, the jaws comes back.
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make here is that my concerns are pretty much on how the university is run at the moment.
Mm.
We've got this wrong concept of students can actually study without presenting themselves physically.
Mm.
And this is okay if education was just a matter of transferring of information to students.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about university education where there's a lot more than just a transfer of knowledge. But we've got things like soft skills, and we've got the personal engagement between teachers and students,
Right.
and also amongst themselves.
Right.
So I think complacency has set in, and students tend to feel that there's no need to be in the campus physically. But I mean, that's the downside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the advantage of the situation is, if we're going to look at the advantage of it,
Looking on the other side, yeah.
it's there is this emergence of different techniques of teaching now,
Right.
online.
Right.
Albeit it's a bit impersonal, but they tend to be quite effective as well.
Okay.
The delivery has been so modernized and so digitalized and IR 4.0 in a way that you can be as effective as you were doing it physically, up to a certain extent. But I mean, for those of us who've been to university before, we know that there's a lot more to higher education than just listening to what people say and taking into yourselves of the facts and regurgitating them again. Because education is not just the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. That's from Einstein, by the way.
Okay.
So, with all the new methodologies in place, I think my personal opinion is that they just stopgap measures to make the best of the situation. And the worst thing is they could just confirm what cynics have been saying. And if you allow me to finish this,
please.
They would say learning can be done online. They'll say research can be carried out remotely.
Right.
They even say that AI will run universities in the end, and people will not want to come to the campus. I think this is, very far from the truth. So at SEGi University, we've been trying to get students to come back. Without students, what kind of university are we running?
Yeah.
Is it the university of the pandemic? That's a term that we're using.
Right.
I'm saying this to students. We missed you.
Right.
I don't know if you've missed us, but we can't get you out of our mind. And it's very distracting. They say,
I know something that will come out from you, Prof. Yes.
They say absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Precisely.
And familiarity breeds contempt. But the Beatles once said,
yes,
there were birds in the sky, and I never heard them winging. I never saw them winging. No, I never saw them at all till there was you. You see, sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. That came from somewhere. So, my concerns, again, I've gone off track. It's been very quiet, and I can tell you from my children's experience, they're both, two of them, are in the UK. And when it started, they told me it was horrible. They just had to stay home. And I told them, we're going through the same thing here as well.
Right.
But then, in the UK, they started to relax the situation a bit.
Right.
And my daughter, who goes to the University of London, has been taking online classes, but with tutorials.
Okay.
Small group tutorials.
Right.
Every now and then, and the campus is kind of busy.
Okay.
That's what she told me.
Okay.
So it's getting better in the UK, but here,
Yeah,
we are
in
stuck.
Malaysia.
We are stuck. I mean, that's my concern. That's the first question. My concerns are that the university has become a deserted place. Do you love the literature?
I want to hear more. Yes.
Let me tell you, this is about not having things that you had before.
Right.
This is from Splendor in the Grass. It's a poem. I mean, here they would say poem, but that's not right. It's poem. William Wordsworth said, though the radiance that was once so bright be now forever taken from our sight, though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, of glory in the flower, we grieve not. We'd rather find strength in what remains behind. That's beautiful.
Here. Yes. Yes.
Sorry about that. That's a bit too long.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's beautiful. Yeah. I want to hear more. Yes.
A bit later then.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. Okay, bro. Having said that, do you think we have reached to where we are now in terms of both sides, the students and the university, meeting halfway through this pandemic, the new normal pandemic?
The new normal is so abnormal, isn't it? That's the first thing I would say.
Yes.
Can I answer that in terms of academic quality?
Please.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at what are the drivers of academic quality.
Okay.
Now, this is from, I got to look at my notes.
Please.
This is actually from the meeting of vice chancellors and, a couple of things that I've collated.
All right.
The first is the curriculum and its pedagogy. Second, academic staff. Third, student support. Fourth, student experience.
All right.
Physically and now online.
All right.
Number 5, the assessment of learning. Number 6, how well we retain the students. That means they don't leave.
Yes.
How well do we place them in industry?
All right.
And how soon do they graduate? The graduation on time.
Right.
So these are the 6 things that they talk about when we look at the academic quality. I mean, there are various ways of looking at
But
academic
not necessarily in that order,
No.
isn't it? Yeah.
So, you know, with no persons in attendance, points 4 and 5, student experience, and the assessment of learning
Right.
will be affected
Right.
because you're gonna have to do alternative assessment,
Right.
and student experience is horribly affected because there's no way that you can actually engage with them like people do. It's all online. It's very impersonal sometimes. And to a certain extent, number 6, the placement and graduation of students, that would be affected as well, because it's difficult to get students to go out into the industry and have the industry experience with the lockdown and the scare with the new Omicron variant that's coming up, and the whole situation is very quiet.
Right. Right.
But what strikes me most is, as DVC Student Affairs, I think the student experience, the experience of being in a class with a live teacher, is missing.
Right.
You know, I remember it very well when I was a student, way back in 1982, 81. I was at the University of New South Wales.
You don't have to be too specific on that. Start counting the age.
I can still vividly remember how the lecturer explained to us the 4 chambers of the heart, because he was there talking about it and drawing the heart chambers.
Right.
And I can see the way that he was explaining it. It really stays in your mind. Almost forever.
Right.
Almost.
Right.
So I think the importance of real life teaching, you can never underestimate that. It's so important.
Right.
So with student experience and development seriously curtailed, with people not coming to the campus, the wholeness of education is affected. The soft skills, what the ministry has been talking about so far, well-balanced students. How are you going to get the well-balanced students if people don't actually meet up?
Right.
And am I concerned? Of course I am. Because education's purpose, I'm reading, is to replace an empty mind with an open one. So you can't do that online. And secondly, back to your question, how do we gauge our performance? Really, that was the question, wasn't it?
Yes.
I think this is going to be a bit more academic. First, whether the students have acquired the skills and the competence that they need to. I mean, in some professions, the professional bodies will have to determine this. In the graduates of the pandemic period, do they have the same competencies and skills that people have had when there was no pandemic?
Right.
And secondly, the acid test is employability. How employable are these graduates?
Right.
Having graduated during the pandemic.
Right.
The industry, to a certain extent, would also be a benchmark, because when they were students, they couldn't go out to the industry. The placement was affected. So whether industry is going to be friendly to them is also another test.
Right.
And lastly, because we are in Student Affairs Office, the student feedback on the acceptance of the teaching that they have been getting during the pandemic would be a good barometer or gauge of how successful we've been.
When you gauge them now, looking at...
I think we are meeting them halfway.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying that the online is totally successful.
Right.
And I'm not saying that you can't do it online at all. So we are, meeting halfway. We're trying to make the best of both halves.
Of course. It's something better than nothing. That's it.
Absolutely, sir.
Right. Okay, Prof. How do we determine if we are on the right track in delivering higher education, in as far as our strategies have been in ensuring overall academic quality? Now you're talking about quality here.
How do we move from here?
Yeah.
First, we've got to be true to ourselves.
Right.
and accept the fact that the pandemic is going to be on and off. I mean, sorry, the lockdowns are going to be on and off, or the scare is going to be on and off, and it's going to be endemic soon.
Yes.
And we'll have to be prepared for disruptions.
Right.
So that's the first thing, is to actually realize the fact that it's not going to be the same again. But then again, what we need is, I mean, these are my personal opinion again, yeah, a clear policy on how to deal with infections that come up every now and then, and how flexible we are in ensuring that students get the education that they're supposed to get, whilst taking into account of some delays, some disruptions. So we can't be so strict now, saying that you got to graduate within 3 years.
Yeah.
Because there are times when students have to do practicals, and that's not possible until the course is clear, so to speak, and that's going to extend their stay at the university.
So there's so much uncertainties there. In a way.
It's but the university and the government can have definite policies on. One of them, delayed delivery.
Yeah.
Mass online classes.
Right.
I mean, at the moment we have ratios of staff to students, but if we're going to do mass teaching, we're going to have to relax that a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And micro credentials will have to be taken to the max. We're doing micro credentials now.
Right.
People come in and do bits and pieces of the program, and later on transfer the credit to the proper program.
Right.
That would have to be to the max.
Yeah.
Skills and competencies, no compromise. As they say, you really got to slug it out and have them.
You're right.
And if you need to wait another 6 months to come back and learn your techniques, I'm talking about the medical students or the dental students, you got to drill the teeth out.
Right.
6 months later, you got to come 6 months later. You can't do that online.
Right.
Research, yes and no. I mean, people take advantage of the situation by doing more research, but the hard sciences would have problems with research,
right?
Because you can't come to the laboratories if there is a lockdown.
Yeah.
The other thing about gauging our success is interprofessional relations between different professions. Now that requires people to be around. Without that, they don't have the practice of talking to each other, respecting each other's profession, each other's belief and practices. Well, and the last one, I've got it on my notes, so I've got to say it out here. Higher degrees. Some universities would take the advantage of getting more students for PhDs and masters by research. But
what do you think?
There's it depends on the discipline, and it depends on how good the supervisor is in conveying the research message or the research ability to the students, because you're not meeting them.
Right.
Whereas the traditional way is to meet up with your supervisor every week.
Correct.
And meeting someone up every week, the body language and everything else, it's irreplaceable.
Yes. Yes.
So it's a good way of moving forward, getting more higher degree students, but it's got to be clear methodology. I'd like to also add to this the uneasiness of the whole situation. Now that I've got it, now that I can recall, there was a comment made last week by Tan Sri Arshad Ayub, a prominent educationalist in the country, and he made some harsh comments about which that's totally perfectly fine, but it worries us because I wouldn't say it worries us, but it makes us think that the importance of having industry captains, people from the industry, to come and teach in our university programs. It's never been made clearer. So he was so definite about it. He made some harsh comments, but that's okay from a very, from an elderly gentleman with so much wisdom.
Yeah.
But we learn from it that the industry captains would have to come in, and this is the best time because they can do it online, and they can also do it physically. So the need for people from industry can be can be satisfied now with online teaching. That's first. The second one, which worries me so much, is us watching YouTube video and they're saying that the university is dead. COVID-19 killed it. A damning remark.
Scary, yeah.
By doomsday monks, I think. I don't think it's dead. I mean, it's greatly over-exaggerated.
Yes.
I mean, people are saying that universities must produce graduates who are job-ready. I have a slight problem with that because universities have been around for many thousands of years, and it's not just the only function of university to produce work-ready graduates. You know, we don't just teach STEM. You know what STEM is?
Yeah.
Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We are preparing people who not only just can make money or entrepreneurs, but we are creating graduates, I'm picking this quote from somewhere, who are ready for life. In fact, if I may push it a little further, this is a quote from some, education is not preparation for life even. Education is life itself. So if it's just being an entrepreneur and making money, then it's just transactional education. It's not transformational education. That's taken from somewhere.
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
Okay, so universities are the cultural hearts of our society, the hub of its community. The university is the place where we fall in and out of love with knowledge.
I was waiting for that.
And with each other. I certainly can remember, recall my university days in the early 80s, you know, bittersweet memories, the silly things that we did. We only realized, we only realized them 40 years later. It's nostalgic. But then again, you know what nostalgia is? It's like a grammar lesson. You find the present tense and the past perfect. Well, there you go.
Good one.
I've said too many things actually.
One last thing that I want to bring up to you here, just to maybe you can share with us. What hopes or further moves need to be in place to move forward, assuming the non-predictive nature of the pandemic?
We just have to take the bulls by the horns, and be ready for excellent online delivery. And at the same time, as I said just now, I probably partly answered it just now, to be prepared for direct engagement in the future. Although it's going to make the program longer, but it's got to be a mixture of both with clear policies.
Correct. Good. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Ariffin, for sharing, for Azrin Ariffin, for sharing all this interesting sharing with us. And of course, in between all this, whatever that love portion of the story. There's
one more, Dr. Mazli, you remember?
Yes.
The Minister of Education during the PH government. He said, you know, working in a university, you should focus on respect, love, and happiness. Now, it makes a lot of sense. You respect one another. You respect the students. They love you, and you all end up in happiness.
He couldn't have said it better.
He couldn't have said it better.
Thank you, sir.
You are most welcome.
Thank you for being with us again. And we look forward to see you again another time. Yes.
I certainly am looking forward to that.
Thank you, sir.
Ta-da.
Thank you for sharing your views on this topic, Prof. And as always, you have not failed to amuse us with your wit and charm, and not forgetting your Dr. Love words of wisdom. In sum, COVID-19 has changed the world, and academia is no exception. It has profoundly changed the way people interact with each other, the way they work, and the way they learn. Universities are now realizing that teaching practices will ultimately never completely return to the previous model. Isimians, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Edu Channel Malaysia. Thanks again, Professor Azrin Ariffin, for being in our program, and we look forward to have more of you soon. Sehingga kita berjumpa lagi di masa yang akan datang, please take care and stay safe everyone. Bye.